Thank you. Allow me to extend my thoughts and prayers to the people of Maylanar as they cope with devastating loss and struggle to survive in the wake of Cyclone Nargis. I pray that they have the strength they need now in the weeks to come. My thoughts and prayers are also with the members of the Canadian Burmese community in a time of great need. The international community stands ready and willing and able to respond to this humanitarian crisis and to bring relief to the thousands of victims of Cyclone Nargis. Shipments of international emergency humanitarian aid have been trickling into the country this week. However, foreign aid workers are waiting at the border of Myanmar for the military government to allow them to enter the country so they can administer much-needed assistance. Earlier this week, a team from Global Medic, a Canadian humanitarian aid organization, flew from Toronto, bound for Burma with emergency medical supplies, water purification tablets, and water purification systems. The team, as we speak, is stuck in Bangkok. The Secretary General of the United Nations is urging Burmese military rulers to allow international workers and aid into the country without hindrance, warning that inaction could be deadly after nearly a week. Canada has so far pledged $2 million in humanitarian assistance. The Government of Canada has also offered the services of our Disaster Assistance Response Team, DART. I've personally seen the work that DART has done in Sri Lanka, in Pakistan, and I tell you, they do good work. And has urged the Government of Burma to grant immediate access to humanitarian workers. Canada is still waiting a response from the Burmese authorities. The Canadian advance team has left for the region to access how Canada can best deliver support. Canadians are a generous people, and in times of international disaster, we open our hearts and our wallets to assist people in dire need. Tsunami, we raised $250 million, and at the end of the day, the numbers were counted. Canadians are answering disaster relief appeals from aid workers for the victims of Cyclone Nargis. Ladies and gentlemen, I am calling on the Government of Canada to intensify its humanitarian assistance in the following ways. Pledge up to $70 million in humanitarian assistance. Nothing less will answer this call. When tsunami struck, when we had the earthquake in Muzaffarabad, the Canadian government was there. The Canadian government has to step up to the plate right now. The Canadian government can also match dollar for dollar money raised by Canadian non-governmental organizations for the victims of the cyclone. For every dollar that you raise, the Canadian government must step in and match dollar for dollar. That's not the practice currently. It was the practice in the past. It must be the practice again. Establish a one-time special charitable number through Canada Revenue Agency for the Canadian Burmese community to collect relief funds and to be able to issue you tax receipts so you can claim them at the end of the year. That only encourages you to donate more. Expedite family plan sponsorship cases from the region that are currently in process. And finally, issue visitor visas to immediate family members of the Canadian Burmese community so they can join their relatives in Canada. The former governments have done that. This is not a time that we say conservatives or liberals or NDP. This is the time that we all come together. This is the time of action. This is the time that it's needed. And I promise you, along with my colleague Olivia Chow and the rest of the members in the House of Commons, we will do nothing less but to make sure that the call gets answered. On Monday, around lunchtime, I'm going to camp outside the Burmese embassy and I'm going to ask for a visa. And thank you for allowing me to share in the grief. Myself, I've experienced a flood in 1961. I was only 6 years old. I was in kindergarten at the time. And when the flood sort of reached our courtyard, my father tried to put his father, my grandfather, on his back and tried to swing him out, and he couldn't, so he closed the door and came back in. Now, many of you remember at that time the movies of Tarzan, and we had to go from the courtyard up to the second floor, and there was a rope that was dropped down. And I will never forget this day. But the floods, the people that were devastated, but I will never forget one thing. a child, myself, saying to my dad, "Dad, I'm going to go off the rope, I'm going to play Tarzan." So, the times are there, the need is there, the request for action is now. And I ask of you to do one thing. Coming for prayers is great, but tonight when you go home, talk to your neighbors. Say to them, "Look, I'm from that part of the world. We need your help. Donate 10 bucks, donate 20 bucks. You've got an organization. There is an account, I hope, that's been set up already. And ask them to give you money. It's up to you folks, each and every one of you. If every one of you here tonight collects 10 bucks, 20 bucks, 30 bucks, and ask their neighbors to do the same, that money is going to multiply. It's needed. It's now time for action. Thank you for having me.